His heart was beating out of control, pumping blood faster than normal, and his rage was getting out of control. Even the pupil in his left eye had changed to purple and was exuding a powerful aura. He recalled a time before when he almost lost control and started to calm himself down. While looking at the beat-up face of the guy he was holding by his hair, he recalled where he saw him last. So why would the Smurfs Guild be messing with the Cane Guild? While he was trying to regain control over his raging emotions, the other members of the Smurfs Guild noticed him. With their weapons in hand, they rushed to our hero, wanting to mess him up. How could he take this sitting down? In a flash, he started to smack down the approaching players. He had already killed a person before, so didn't hesitate to swing his blade. If anything, he was getting a thrill as his blade cut through the flesh of the surrounding players, and his heart won't stop racing. He was killing the red players and loving every moment of it. Even as Elf tried to get his attention, he was mowing through the red players, leaving behind a trail of blood in his wake. After multiple tries, her voice was eventually able to reach him and brought him back to his senses. The leader of Kane's middle-tier group, Bong Gudu, was thanking him for his help. He couldn't believe his savior was Giju, the one he has heard so much about from their guild leader. Our hero was a bit skeptic and asked if it really was Sequoia, and he replied the very one, and he wished for Giju to join their guild. However, in Gudu's mind, he was thinking that this person was nothing like what the guild master had told him about. His guild master was always worried about Giju since he had a weak heart, but the person in front of him used his blade against others without any hesitation, and the power he displayed was comparable to their guild master. Nonetheless, Giju asked why was the Smurfs Guild after Sequoia. Did something happen between their two guilds? Gudu had no idea, since their guild master wasn't someone who went around making enemies without good reason. The only way to get information would be to interrogate the red players they had captured. Since red players are supposed to be killed anyways, torturing them can be done based on the situation. But there are reservations on doing it, even if it is allowed by the association. As our hero was thinking about torture, he stepped away from the captives and let the Cane Guild deal with it. He thought back to the Guardian subjugation, where he lost control of his emotions before. But at the time he just thought it was due to the trauma from getting tortured before and the problems with stress. But right now he didn't feel anything when they talked about torturing the captives, so could it be he had no trauma at all to begin with? Then he started to question why he was not able to control himself just now. No, that's not the most important thing. More than anything else, why was he thinking that killing people was fun? Interrupting his dark thoughts, his ego spoke up concerned. He hurriedly stated he was sorry for making them worry for nothing, and they didn't need to care about it too much, since he had his suspicion on what might have happened. The Demon King must have done something to him back then. As he walked back to the rest of the group, he was welcomed back. Gudu apologized for the unsightly things they had to do, but Giju said that he understood it was just the situation they were in. He then asked if they found anything, and Gudu replied nothing other than that they are just following their boss's orders. Our hero commented that they might just be the lowest members, since they don't know anything and their skills were below average. While Gudu agreed, in his mind that's probably because Giju was strong. Gudu said he would be headed down from here, and while it would have been great if they were able to contact their leader, but alas, they had things they needed to take care of first. However, at that moment, our hero sensed something and told him to hold a second. Soon they all heard footsteps in the surrounding area, and soon members of Smurfs Guild arrived and surrounded them from all sides. There were over 100 players. It looked like their entire guild had come here. Giju asked Gudu if he sent anyone out to contact the association or their guild. He replied affirmative but did not expect any backup. He then told Gudu to get another messenger ready as well as a flare, since he was planning to clear a path. All this time, instead of being scared of this dangerous situation, our hero was getting more excited at the prospect of fighting. With his evil eye flaring up again, he rushes towards the unexpected Smurfs members and charges past them up into a tree. Then, using the tree to catapult himself, crashed down within the group and started to cause havoc from among them. The members of the Cane Guild were mesmerized for a moment by what they saw before them, then charged forward to support Giju. Meanwhile, in his head, he was thinking killing these players were no different from slaying monsters. And he didn't even feel an ounce of guilt for doing it either. In fact, But at these thoughts he was interrupted by a blast of flames that seemed to encompass him. The onlookers were shocked at the sea of flames erupting on the field of battle, but miraculously Giju escaped the flames without any damage. Stepping onto the scene, he told our hero that he was impressed that he was able to dodge that attack, and he even used an expensive item that he stole from someone else. Looking at the newcomer Gudu, stated that it was the leader of the Smurfs Guild, the fallen ranker, the slayer Minsy Choi. He had red head and stood behind the flames with a wicked dagger in his hands, claiming that our hero gave off the same kind of scent as them, and asked if he would like to join the Smurfs Guild. People who commit crimes daily within the tower were labeled as red players. Since it was basically impossible to enforce the law within the tower, the most that association could do was manage the portals, which is the tower's entrance, and hinder their growth. Among the red player, there is a player who was once a ranker. He was the current Smurfs Guild leader, Minsy Choi. The fact that he gave up all the luxury and honor of being a ranker voluntary for a life of crime, he's that much of a psychopath who's addicted to murdering and torturing other players. Minsy asks if he is interested in joining them, since he can tell that he is one of them, and promises that it'll be much more fun to join his side. While Giju thinks about his recent emotional outburst, he tells them to shut their trap and not to lump him together with the likes of scumbags like them. Which caused the vice guild leader of the Smurfs Guild to be offended. In fury he says to our hero that he's an arrogant brat, how dare he talk like that in front of. But before he could finish talking, he was covered in flame, which shocked Giju. Minsy furiously stated how he dare cut in when he was in the middle of talking, and the head of the vice leader was burned to a crisp. Then a headless body fell before him, as Minsy, with a calm expression, made an apology stating that they have a lot of rude people due to their lack of education. Anyways, they now have a vacancy in their guild for the vice guild leader position, and he would give him that spot if he joined their guild. After a moment of contemplation, Giju asks why are they after the Kane Guild? While scratching his head, the redhead asks, so you're going to ask me a question instead of answering, then he states he has no reason not to answer. He goes on to say that they are going to get outside of this tower, since they are tired of being stuck in this hellhole. That's the reason why they have some business with Kane's guild leader. Gudu, shocked by this revelation, asks why would their guild have to do with them going outside the tower, are they just planning to use them as hostage? As Minsy shows a grin, an enraged Giju questioned, how did he know about that? This was Sequoia's secret, his second unique ability he gained within the tower. With surprise Minsy asks if he knew about this secret too, and smiles saying he really is amusing. With murderous intent, Giju charges Minsy, telling him to answer his questions. Minsy meets the charge with a grin, while materializing another knife in his offhand. This took Giju by surprise and left an injury on his cheek, and he questioned if Minsy had dual blades from the start. As they continued to clash blades on the battlefield, Minsy declared that there should be a clear hierarchy to things, as he caused a fiery explosion which forced the surrounding players to cover their eyes. The blast also forced our hero back, and he thought with just a few clashes he can already feel a difference from the fights of the past. He has met a lot of people who are just as high-leveled, but this guy was basically a professional at hunting other players. Minsy was laughing maniacally and clashed with Giju, commenting, "Did you think he would let him have a break?" While our hero managed his skills to keep up with Minsy. A kick to his side caught him off guard and sent him flying. He managed to keep from falling by using his two swords to stabilize himself. He was wondering how Minsy suddenly got so strong, was it a skill he used, but his egos told him that his opponent's movement hasn't changed. Minsy with a devilish grin says, looks like it's starting to take effect, mentioning that he seemed like he was intimidated by his firepower, that he didn't notice the full power of his weapon, Flame Dagger. The dagger accumulates damage against someone he clashed blades with, meaning the winner was already determined when the fight got extended. So give up now, since he was still willing to accept him into his guild. At these words, Giju shouted that you should have told him that sooner, and using the haste skill charged at Minsy, who was momentarily shocked. After which a gleeful expression appeared on his face as he exclaimed maybe he had something else up his sleeve, and then he will also show his full power, unleashing his skill Hell Flame. As Giju was fast approaching him, it felt extremely hot, and thanks to that he should be able to finish him for sure. When they were only an arm's length apart, they crossed blades with each other. At the same time, Giju used his skill Reflect, using all the accumulated damage caused by the flame dagger, and the power was overwhelming that it shocked Minsy. In the next moment, the explosion within the pillar of flame sent something crashing outside of it. As the other players looked on in shock at what might have just flew by, the object left a trail of destruction in its wake as it finally came to a stop to reveal the body of Minsy. As Giju slowly approached the body, he remarked that exposing one's own weakness was a very amateurish mistake. As he pointed his sword to the lying body, the system notification informed him that cannibalism has been activated, player Minsy has been accessorized, and the accessorization was successful. Giju was shocked at the revelation that people can be cannibalized, and wondered just what are the requirements to activate it. Standing there, he thought his legs would give out on him. As expected from a ranker, this battle could have gotten ugly. He can't show his weak side just now. There were other members of the Smurfs Guild left, so was really hoping they would just go away since their guild master was dead. However, he felt more menacing glares coming from behind him. He turned to look at the sea of menacing faces grinning eagerly, wanting to devour him for their personal gain. These were all red players, thinking whoever kills this bastard before them can be the next leader of their guild. While some wondered at the disappearance of their guild master's body, they just assumed it was part of a skill. As he stared at the mob, his egos advised him to make a run for it. The reflex skill deals a lot of accumulated damage, but it doesn't mean he can avoid all damage. In order to return damage, he has to take damage, and just like in the maze gate, the damage he receives gets stronger based on the damage reflected. Thinking about all the hurt his body was facing, he looked at the mob with a glare of his own, thinking if he only had some rest even a minute would do. Some of the Smurfs Guild members had second thoughts, filled with doubts and hesitation, as he stared at the intimidating aura coming from Giju, thinking just who is this brat? While others thought it didn't matter since they had the advantage due to their numbers, even if a lot of them died, as long as they delivered the final blow. With shouts of him being tired and inciting the group that this is just like their usual hunts, they all rushed to be the first to take out Giju. Just as they were closing the distance to him, he felt a presence that was very familiar to him, and a smirk appeared on his face, stating "You're too late." As Arctic cold air came blasting in and froze the players that were closing in on Giju, he let out a sigh of relief as the figure of Sequoia appeared, greeting him saying it's been a while. As others became aware of Sequoia's appearance, saying that while he would love to chat longer, he needs to take care of some business first. Using his skill Blizzard to cover the area, he started to count the number of red players. Afterwards he declared it will take him 3 minutes, then they can catch up. After materializing his twin ice blades, he jetted into the crowd and started to take them out as quickly. Every slash left frozen ice surrounding the wound. While drinking a potion, our hero thinks it's expected of Sequoia that he has gotten even stronger than before, but now the gap between them is closer than it was at the start of their meeting. Remarking that expensive potions are always the best, he charges up his skills and enters the fight, slashing through the remaining Smurfs members. From afar, Sequoia notices Giju's return to the battle with surprise, then a grin appears on his face. As they both declare a challenge, as if against each other, that it will only take 1 minute to clear the field of this trash. In a short period of time, the battle comes to an end and things are being tidied up by the remaining members of the Cane Guild. Sequoia walks over to Giju's resting place. He comments that Giju has changed so much, he almost didn't recognize him, and asks about his eye. To which our hero didn't know what he meant, and was told that his left eye is now purple. Thinking must have something to do with what the Demon King did to him in the past, he tried to pass it off as part of a skill. While a little skeptic, Sequoia continues and remarks not only did Giju's appearance change, but he had gotten way stronger than expected. They sat making small talk about recent events and how Sequoia found out that Giju was the masked ranker from Seanpil. Thinking about all that, Giju couldn't let out a bit sigh, saying it's really a nuisance to him, and it amazed him how Sequoia can deal with all that fame. So are there still reporters at the association? Sequoia responds that it's been a while since they have already moved on to another topic, which piqued Giju's curiosity. Sequoia remarked how long has it been since he was out of the tower, and he should at least check the latest news at checkpoints. It appears that the president of the association showed his face on the news for the first time, and due to the timing of such an event, Giju guessed it must have been done for his benefit. Sequoia, while getting up, saying it was great meeting him again, and would love to buy him a drink, but looks like that will have to wait a while. But at least he has time for coffee at least, and he doesn't want to say goodbye like this, while materializing a ring on his hand. While flashing his ring, stating we do have a lot of catching up to do. Giju is surprised to learn that Sequoia is also a mercenary like him, and Sequoia mentions that there are many others like them, and warns not all mercenaries tend to protect each other, so be careful in the future. Each mercenary in their own way tries to hide their identities, whether through skills or items. He then gets to the main point and tells Sequoia the reason why the Smurfs Guild was attacking his guild, and asks how did it get leaked out. This was about Sequoia's second unique ability, portal generation. This ability generates a portal, whether it's within or outside the tower, and it's a unique ability with the power to shake the entire world. It's an ability that he probably tried his best to hide, but how did the Smurfs Guild find out about it, since even members of his own guild were unaware of it? Sequoia says it's a long story, and since they're finishing up here, they can head down and talk. When Giju mentions since he is a guild leader, doesn't he have more pressing matters he needs to deal with first, Sequoia replies what's more important than talking to someone who was personally involved, and anyways the other members were handling it well. If that's how it works, then Giju had a place, he had a cafe in mind for their chat. Later inside the manager's office, Taeshik was furious and asked does his place look like a cafe to them? However, Giju pleaded that due to the nature of their discussion, this was the only private place he could get for free that he knew of. Taeshik asked what did he mean by free, he was going to start charging in the future, so keep that in mind. Then he noticed Giju's eye color was different and asked him about it, and Outboy answered it must be due to the skill, at the same time wondering how long will it be before it changed back to normal. Dismissing the issue, Taeshik went directly to the point of saying that since they came here right after the massacre of the Smurfs Guild, they have something to ask of him, right? To which Giju said not really, which astonishes Taeshik, thinking they really came for the free noise cancellation he has. After some time, Sequoia discusses what happened a few months ago, when he was forced to use the skill in front of a few guild members. Unfortunately, one of them got caught by the Smurfs Guild, and since they wanted any information about getting to the outside world, would have used any means at their disposal to get them to talk. Taeshik remarks that it's an annoying coincidence, and asks what happened to that member. Since none of the Smurfs members they captured alive knew about them, he assumed that they must already be dead. Taeshik, sipping his drink, silently contemplates on what he was told. Sequoia asks when a team will be formed to wipe out the rest of them, and Taeshik informs him as soon as they found any more information. The Kane Guild volunteers to join the group, since they have to know if the captured member is alive or not and make sure more information does not get leaked. After which Sequoia states he will be headed out first, since he still has a lot of work to do. Seeing him off, Taeshik comments that Sequoia is acting brave but probably going crazy on the inside, since he treats his guild members like family. Taeshik then asks about his condition, but Giju tells him he is fine since he used a lot of potions and got healed by a healer. But Taeshik clarified not that, he was asking about his mental condition since this was his first time killing a person. While looking slyly, he said it was complicated to say it's his first time, since he was determined to kill Rogers Han back then, stating all his enemies deserved death, and he had no reason to feel guilty about it, so he feels fine right now. But the problem now is while killing people, he felt a thrill from it. Taeshik remains silent for a minute, then rubs Giju's head, telling him not to overthink things. This job has a lot of people who are dark inside, what's really important is if you are able to control that or not. Pondering on those words, can he really control it? The next day, back on the 29th floor, he was looking around the battle area and there are still signs of frost left over, and he wondered what Sequoia's level is now. To think that he killed a few dozen people here yesterday, he still can't believe it. Also, his eye color hasn't come back to normal yet, so did he really completely change or was he always like this? Anyways, he decided today was the day he was going to challenge the 30th floor test of this tower. He already completed 3 floor tests, first was to hunt a goat, second was to hunt a orc, and third was to hunt a minotaur. Each test was a simple mission with the difficulty decreased drastically. But as he was trying to open the door, his hands started to shake. Was his body trying to warn him, he wondered. A player should never ignore their own senses, and especially for him since his senses has been enhanced beyond normal after drinking the elixir. He recalled the memory of his first test, and taking a deep breath told himself what's the point in hesitating now, just got to do this. His egos encouraged him onwards. As he entered, the system message informed him that he had entered the 4th testing room, and a special test was being initiated. On a desert with the dust clouds covering him, an outline of a castle could be seen looming in the distance, as the sun was setting behind it. Since the system said it was a special test, it might be different from the other tests so far, and decided to head towards the castle in the horizon. Just at that moment, warnings come from his egos, and giant scorpions come out of the ground around him. This was just as he expected. As he got his swords ready, he charged forward using his haste skill, but to his surprise he lost his balance, due to the sand underneath. Off-balanced, he barely managed to block the pincer attack with his swords in the nick of time. Then launching himself up into the sky and came down to deal a devastating blow, killing the scorpion. He thought since the terrain wasn't a good fit to use haste, he would just have to walk the distance to the castle instead. At that moment, Lu's voice could be heard saying he can feel it. Giju asked how long has he been awake for, and Lu replied since he entered the gate, but that wasn't important, they needed to head to the castle since his body was there. Then we are shown the vague image of a man with glowing red eyes sitting on a throne seat within the castle. Well, stay tuned to find out what happens in the next episode. Until next time.